Welcome to CX and Chill, the real, raw, customer experience podcast from Exo Studios, the creative arm of Extend Ops. Today, our host Stephanie Todd dives deep with Wendy Dalton, the dynamo behind Alter Ego and Catalyst Group. From her star-studded recruitment days with powerhouses like Amazon and DreamWorks to unexpected encounters with Obama's chief economist, Wendy's journey is nothing short of captivating. This conversation is more than trading corporate ladders for horse saddles. It's a story of spotting gold mines, mastering the art of blending fashion with functionality, and the challenges of tailoring CX for niche clients. Enjoy!
Hi, I'm Stephanie Todd, your host of CX and Chill. I'm excited today to have Wendy Dalton on. I have not been I'm sorry for the other guests, but not as excited as I am. Like, I was so giddy.
I couldn't even sleep. I was so excited
to see her and talk.
How long? A long time. Too long.
I don't know. I mean, we met on an elevator.
Yes.
Like at a
Liked each other's shoes, yeah.
Yeah. And just, really cool. I think the shoes, the energy.
Everything. Yeah. It was like, I don't know, I just felt this connection with you. It was cool. Actually, I was wondering how on earth could she walk around in those high-heeled shoes?
Plus, I look kind of like an Amazon woman because I'm already tall. And so if someone can create high heels that lower based on the shoe size, that would be ideal.
It was a good look. It was a good look. I was I don't know what it was. Sometimes you just connect with people. Yeah. I don't think I've actually ever connected with anyone that I became friends with in an elevator.
I feel special.
Yes, you are special. Well, very special.
Well, I'm so glad that you would join us today.
Thank you.
So I have written down a couple things because I'm not sure what you call yourself. Because you have many names.
So no.
Are you like, we have, obviously Wendy, but also like entrepreneur extraordinaire. Are you the Bravo headhuntress?
Oh God.
The founder of Alter Ego. Like you're such like a dynamic woman.
Thank
and you have so much in your background and so many things you do and how you help people across various industries categories. So like how now would you like define yourself or describe yourself?
I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily put a name to it necessarily. I mean, I do have multiple businesses, two main ones. I'm the daughter of an entrepreneur. So I grew up surrounded by people who were really figuring stuff out for the first time. I remember when I was really little, Ray Harryhausen did a lot of the special effects on like the King Kong movies, the OG ones. And I remember being really little and looking up and there were all these like little models. And I was like, oh my God, all these cool worlds. And, I was always around people that were just always asking like, well, why not? But for most of my career, I was actually an executive recruiter. And I worked with companies that were really looking to innovate and differentiate themselves. And we would place the leaders who were the first of. So that was what I did most of the time. And then about 7 years ago or so, I just really felt I wanted to have a company that made stuff that wasn't where I wasn't the product. And I'm an equestrian. I've grown up riding horses. They've changed my life. They're really a foundational part of my life. And I saw an opportunity to have create a lifestyle brand. And originally I was actually going to do a guilt group kind of thing where, we'd buy closeouts and what have you, and have like an equestrian guilt group. But then I realized that equestrians actually don't want to save money. They like to spend money. It's a luxury lifestyle. And if you have a horse, you typically have money.
It's the only thing I would say that when I talk to other people, when I talk about how I have all boys in hockey, the only people who say that there's something that's more expensive is equestrian. They're like, oh, you're lucky you don't have to have horses.
It's crazy. I mean, the cheapest thing about riding is, if you own horses, is the cost of the horse. And I just saw an opportunity, and I had gone to fashion school when I was younger. I worked for the London Institute of Fashion, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to design something. I'm going to design different styles of breeches, different styles of bridles, and it just took off. And during COVID, because it was quieter on the executive recruiting front in 2020, especially, I was able to really focus on it. And it's just boomed. And we're now in like 20 retail stores and continuing to grow. And I'm super passionate about it. I'm super passionate about recruiting. If anything, I actually feel everybody should flex their muscles in different ways, because you bring a different perspective. Now I truly understand the companies that I recruit for.
Well, and you've worked with massive brands, Amazon, Google, Nike, DreamWorks, like some massive companies. How have you seen that shift from when you started? I mean, I know you're only like 26 and you haven't aged since I've met you, but how...
I'm in LA, I can't age, yeah, totally.
But how has that changed from when you first started out to like through COVID? Because we had like also 2009 was a big shift and then you had the COVID shift. And now kind of coming out where we're still trying to figure out what things look like, but there's all these new jobs too, where it's like chief metaverse and all these different things that I don't know if people were skilled to even do yet.
You know, I feel like we're a tagline country, right? I mean, I was interviewed actually, I think by Bloomberg. I mean, there was like, 2 words by me in an article.
I'm gorgeous.
Oh yeah, no, it was, I don't know. But it was kind of like about the rise of the chief metaverse officer, which honestly, like nobody's really talking about it as much. Now I think they're calling it the metaverse, I feel like what's different is that before COVID, there was a real reason, right? There was there was a track record where it made sense to make changes, right? Whether that was in your business strategy or creating new technology to drive a deeper connection with your customer. Product development had more meaning and vision behind it. And then during COVID, it just felt like, it's like, let's just throw this at the wall. Let's do this. Okay, we're not doing this now. Now we're doing this. And now we're creating physical products that are going to go with the digital avatars. And, all of these things that weren't based on whether people actually wanted it or not. Yeah. So it just felt like in some ways, a lot of the hiring kind of lost a little bit of purpose. The why, like, why would you do it? And I think, again, it's because people weren't as connected. At the beginning of COVID, I really felt like something magical was going to happen. We were going to come out with more connection to each other, like we had gotten through this. And I think if it had lasted a year, we probably would have. Yeah. But 2 years, another 2 years, like, I mean, we're still only just coming out of it. I think that, I don't know. I look at a lot of our clients and they're laying off now, all of the people that they'd hired. They're really trying to figure out whether the strategies, the changes they had made were the right ones or not. And they're still trying to be profitable. I mean, it's a really weird time. And you've got inflation and you've got the Ukraine and Russia. I mean, like, it's a crazy time.
It's hard. I think it's overwhelming because you don't even know where to focus or what to focus or how can I make a difference and what should my difference be. Yeah. And I think going back to what you're saying too, what is my why? So if I'm just getting placed at a company, I might also not know my intrinsic value of what's my purpose of being here. Yeah. And like, is my skill set even measured and valued in that way? Because it's spaghetti at a wall. Well, and just kind of talking about the driver's seat, right? So one of the things in an article I read, because I totally cyber stalked.
Yes. Oh no.
Completely.
Did I say something?
No. But you talk about how you loved running your own businesses because you can be in the driver's seat. You feel like you can
read that.
Man it. Yeah, I did.
Oh, you found that one.
Beautiful pictures too, by the way.
Thank you.
So, but you could be in the driver's seat to run your own businesses. And I think even now it's a little hard to feel like you, even as a business owner, you can still, drive. Ride the horse, steer the horse, whatever the analogy is.
Yeah, it's interesting. The one thing I love about the e-commerce company that I founded is that if there's a problem, I can fix it. If a customer has an issue, we can fix it. Like, we can really respond to whatever, an issue is. And I do feel, and also, we can, if we need to make more money, we can put things on sale. Or if there's a shift in what people want, we can develop new products. There's something about having a physical product company that I'm loving, because you really get to know people and what they want. And I mean, this is a very niche lifestyle business, but there's just something about it where you can leverage all of the data, all of the behavior, and come up with things that people want or course correct, or there's like something where you do feel kind of empowered. I didn't feel that way as a recruiter, to be honest, because I felt like we are hired to bring in leadership to fix another problem that or to bring something to the table when we don't really know the whole story. Sure. So we're hired, and we're actually, I think I've only ever had one person who didn't work out in my entire career as a recruiter. We're really good, and I think I'm a really good recruiter.
The Bravo headhunters.
The headhunters kind of thing. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a place for intuition, and I don't think, I'm rarely wrong. And I don't mean that in a pompous way. It's just that, I understand business, I understand people, and it was great to do the matchmaking. But during COVID, I honestly was like, why is everybody why are they all rushing? Why are they all like, what's the hurry? Because we don't know day to day what's happening. So yeah, I think that's maybe also why I'm not good at just sitting still. I have to do stuff. And I think the ability to then focus on Halter Ego and growing that was a godsend for me. Also, the fact that we were outside, we were riding horses. So that was the only way I could get outside. I didn't even have to wear a mask, because no one was coming in, within 6 feet of me because I was riding my horse. But there is something about that. And I think as humans, if we don't feel like we're in control, and then you add to that, like, isolation, mental illness, whatever, it's kind of, it's scary.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well,
I don't know if I answered your question or not, but I don't
remember at this point. But no, it's great. And I think looking back too, to like having that lifestyle brand, products that are more tangible, you can feel them, you can see them, you can also see from your customers what they're loving and what they're enjoying, and the horses, like you get like real, probably a good feeling out of what you're doing because you can see it.
You know what's really cool though, I have to say, is that and I still have many days like this where I'm like, I have no freaking idea what I'm doing, right? Like I would interview, I mean, as a recruiter, right? I mean, our clients were in the top 1% of whether tech or retail brands. We placed the top 1%. I have interviewed some of the most interesting people. I mean, I even interviewed once, I did a lot of chief economist searches for Amazon, and not chief economist, but economist searches. And I interviewed Obama's chief economist. And I remember sitting there thinking, oh my God, I'm on the phone with this guy who's like one of the smartest people in the world. And I'm sitting there thinking, what could I possibly ask him that would be interesting? Yeah. But then, I realized actually the gift here is that I'm learning so much. And taking that and then thinking, okay, well, I learned this from that person. I'm now going to implement it. The reality is until you do something, you don't know. And I just have become really passionate about thinking that people need to try different things and sharpen the saw, right? Not just keep their own skill set, but also just be open to learning something else. And, I'm learning about marketing and, paid media. And I'm a complete analytics and data geek. And the information that you have around consumer behavior and pricing. Pricing is like the most fascinating aspect of e-commerce to me. Customer experience. I mean, really, honestly, like if people love your brand, they love interacting with you, you could pretty much sell them anything as long as it's useful to them, but maybe even things that they don't really need because they believe in you, they like you, they want to give you their money. I've just learned so much about people, and it's, I love it. I love it. I still love recruiting, but there's just something that's really cool about learning what the people that I, the leaders I was placing kind of at a very small scale, the things that they were, dealing with. So it's cool. I like it. Yeah.
So when it comes to products too, and getting customer feedback, how do you know what they want or what you should design, or like, how do you stay ahead of that? Because especially in such a niche, like high end brand with probably various personalities. And there's also probably a little bit of like in Minnesota during like lake season, everyone's looking at each other's boats, like who's got the biggest boat, right? Or who's got the best one. And I'm sure in this like sport, you're like, okay, well, who's got what? Oh, look at that bridle or whatever it is, or her pants. So how do you stay ahead of that? Well, know what to put out there?
Well, I mean, you kind of hit on it. Like equestrian, usually, especially women, they will tell you what they think. They will tell you what they want. They will tell you what they don't like. They're very, I mean, literally, they will text, email. I mean, we use the Gorgias platform recently, but they really do feel like they're having a direct one-on-one conversation with us. And they actually are, but it's in a way that I would never like reach out to Victoria's Secret and indignant about something, or, I would never expect even somebody to get back to me within like more than, less than 48 hours or something. There's it's a very high demand lifestyle. But we ask them, I mean, also as an equestrian myself, and I think I am very representative of our amateur customer, not the professionals, but, in terms of life stage, earnings, body type, that kind of thing. So, I know from that. And then we ask them, we listen. They're very vocal. And I was listening to something the other day, one of the podcasts I listened to, can't remember which one, but a big learning for me was it's so important to make products for the customers that you have, and to not make products and then try and find the customers. And we were guilty of continuing to make more and different products. And I think you have to get to a certain level of maturity where you actually know who your customer is and you know what they want, and then give them more of that.
Sure.
But it's, you have to have a dialogue. You have to have a connection with your customer. Otherwise, you really shouldn't be in that business, especially if it's a lifestyle. I think that you've got to be credible. You have to be, customers have to think that you actually know what you're talking about. But then you have to ask. We've started doing a lot of live streaming. Once a week we do a live sale, and it's not a sale as in like a discount or promotion, but it's hey, let's tell you about these products. And it really is fun. They usually go on, they're supposed to be an hour. They usually go for 3 or 4 hours. But I feel energized afterwards because the interaction and the dialogue, it's been really important to our kind of product development process.
Yeah. But even tying into those customers and your tie to them is at a much, and I don't know if it's because of the equestrian industry or whatever, but there's so much more emotion. And so you tie in, I think, too, to the hopes, the dreams, the fears, like emotions that not naturally maybe aren't evoked or people really focus on with customers and brands.
Right. Well, we're equipping people who are not, most of them are not professionals, to get on 1,500-pound animals and feel brave and safe. I mean, sometimes I wonder, I broke my neck. I have a fused neck and a titanium plate. And I'm not, I know so many people that literally almost were paralyzed, and yet we still get back on the dang horse. And I often think to myself, what is wrong with us that we would still look, death in the face, or, Christopher Reeves. I mean, there's real dangers inherent. I mean, you have to be smart, but, I do feel like that's what we're doing. We are outfitting horse and rider to have the best, most confident, for them to be the boldest that they can be. And that's really cool. We're athletes, everyone says, oh, the horse is doing the work. The horse is doing what you tell it to do. Yeah. And it will listen. The better you get, the more the horse will listen. Yeah. And it really is I do dressage now.
Sport. It is beautiful.
It's
the whole, the human and horse, the whole.
It's amazing. Yeah. I mean, there's a reason horses are used in equine therapy. I used to think that you'd put someone on a horse and then a psychologist would look at how you were in the saddle. But it's actually you're on the ground, you're working with the horse. But what's interesting is that the horse's energy and everything will mirror what's going on with the human. And that's what the therapists are looking at. They're looking at how is the horse reacting to this person? And that gives them insights. But the connection between, it's centuries old, the connection between horse and human. I mean, prison systems use them for rehabilitation. Children or people with disabilities, there's a connection there, an unspoken language that can really be magical. And the reason we called the company Halter Ego, Alter Ego was taken, but luckily, because I think Halter Ego is much better. Really
I
cool.
remember the first time you told me about it, I was like, wow, what a clever brand name.
I don't even know how. I think it was just more I want, who are you in the saddle? It's kind of like when you go to work, right? You put on, you used to put on a suit or whatever, get dressed up,
now
you
we're
go
all
to
just
work.
nude at home.
I know, now we're wouldn't that be terrible? I bet there's a really cool blooper reel out there.
Maybe there's filters that can just dress you now.
I'm sure there are. Look, I mean, one day we're going to wake up and it's going to be I'll probably be riding, I'll go into a room and I'll be on a virtual horse and I'll be having the best ride of my life. And it will probably feel like I'm riding a horse. That'll be really sad. But, and one day we'll probably just print the outfit that we want. I really hope we don't come to that, because there's just a beauty in craftsmanship that I really appreciate and that I think is just so important. It's how we, built our civilization. But it's, the whole name was around kind of really kind of helping you to feel like you can do anything, because horses are not predictable. And what I love about it, honestly, too, is that we do actually make people feel better about themselves. We get emails all the time, just saying, I didn't realize, I had forgotten what it was like to feel good riding, to feel like I looked good, to feel ready and equipped. So, we've actually looked pretty deeply around, like, what is the functionality? What kind of fabrics do we need? It's not just about fashion. I mean, when you're in the saddle, you need clothing to behave in a certain way, and you need to feel supported, and you need certain properties. So we've done a lot of analysis around that, and it's just great. I mean, every day is a learning, a learning opportunity for all of us. It's really cool. It's really great actually to not know what you're doing. I mean, for me, horses are not just horses, but making real products. And look, I worked at Google, I worked at Yahoo, I worked for Amazon for like over a decade. Like, I have been in some of the most technologically advanced companies, and I've met some of the most amazing people. It's always I've always felt it was a privilege to be the dumbest person in the room, because, like, the learnings and just like speaking to people that were just so out of this world intelligent. But I'm really just loving doing things that are more tangible as well. There's just such value in it. And it's also the kind of thing where I look at it, it's like, well, you lose that if you scale a business too big, too. You lose it if you become too distanced from your customer. I mean, I'm the eternal student, and I have to say this has probably been the most intense learning period of my life, because I'm doing something that I really had no idea how to do. I'm figuring it out every day. But it's so different to my alter ego, as an exec recruiter for some of these companies. I remember walking into rooms when I was in college that was the computer room, and it was like the computer was the whole room. I remember dial-up internet and thinking, I am never freaking going to work in tech. This is ridiculous. I can't find anything. It's too slow. Drives me crazy.
You're like,
my
oh
God.
my gosh, please connect.
I would get cut off.
Please connect.
I mean, I literally remember a conversation I had with my mother. I was like, that's it. I'm never working in technology. And then I worked for 3 of the biggest tech companies, which was great.
I think we're all just trying to figure out, be our, like, I think it was as bravest, boldest selves, and figure out how we make a difference in the world. I'm a kind of hippie, peace loving, harmony type of person, but even just some of the things, I mean, like beauty by design, like I keep looking behind your head because I see some of the designs and things like that on some of the stuff you do. And I was watching earlier when you showed me one of the girls in the back who's hand making some of these products based on what the customer wanted. And it's like, even those little things, I don't think we always celebrate. Like, I'm making something that's going to impact someone's life, that will bring joy to someone else. And maybe we don't understand always like the full capacity of what that looks like. But it's, probably some of those little things that we like can grasp onto and say like, oh, wow, like this made, someone's day, or they're on their horse feeling strong and proud or whatever that is.
It's really interesting. My husband will always say to me, he'll say, the fees that we charge for exec recruiting, we're a retained firm, are big. And he'll say, you can make so much money doing that. He said, but the joy that you have making a brow band for someone's horse, and that they are so happy, and they've spent maybe a couple $100, if that. He said, I've just never seen that. And I said, you know why? I said, because I'm actually making a difference to that person. Their horse, that part of their life is so important to them. And I've made something that they think is beautiful. And it's just like...
And makes them feel beautiful.
And makes them feel beautiful.
And then their parents or whoever is watching. There's so many people, I think, that you don't realize just how many people you impact with something that maybe you've now built. I mean, I remember when we first met, you're like, God. I have a side gig I just started, and there was a little bit of a presence, but now since, like, walking around your showrooms and walking in the back where they're making these pieces, and there's so much. And I just love, like, one of the things I think we miss in some of the technology that I've told people, like, if someone can develop this, you can steal my idea. But I'm like, the smell,
I know,
that evokes the emotion. So like when I was walking back through and you could smell the leather, and it reminds me, like, my grandpa was he ran Tandy Leather in North Dakota.
Oh my God!
And so you always reminded me of him and how he would like make hand carved leather and the horses my dad has, like, more quarter horses, not equestrian, but just like it brings up those different memories and emotions, So I think sometimes even just the smell and the texture and the feel of it. There's just so much to it.
It was so funny. We went to a trade show in Dallas, the American Equestrian Trade Association. They have it twice a year. We'd never done anything like this. So I didn't even have enough suitcases for all the stuff we were going to bring. So I went to Target one night. It was pouring rain, because we've been having these crazy rains here. And I was at the checkout, and this girl kept asking me questions. She's like, so where are you going and what are you doing? And I was like, oh, I'm going to this trade show, blah, blah, blah. And it was really interesting because she kept asking questions, but like she really wanted to know in a way that like was just so genuine. Like most people are like, oh, did you find everything you needed, blah, blah, blah. But she wanted to know. She was like, well, what are the suitcases for? And why are you going? And so what are the products and stuff? And she said, so I guess you're like a fashion designer. And I was like, oh my God. I'm like, you're right. I'm a fashion designer. And I was like, thank you. I said, I never really owned it before. And I never really allowed it to be a part of my identity. I always felt guilty that I was doing this thing on the side. And she's amazing. Like I actually went back after the show because we got to the show and everyone was like, we were swamped. It was like we were the belle of the ball. It was a really humbling experience. I was totally overwhelmed. We were not, we got there and everyone had like their boots and there we were with a little rack, and some clothes. It was just so, and a banner, maybe 2 banners. But we were the belle of the ball and it was, it felt good.
And you probably had newfound confidence from some stranger who gave you a piece that you didn't think about.
Yes.
Like it's always fun to
and who
hear
wasn't
that.
flippant. Like she wanted to know and she was not going to rest until I kind of told her the whole thing. And it was just really cool. And the gift that she gave me was just amazing.
Well, and now that's just another title. I didn't have that one down.
Yeah, I'm a fashion
So
designer.
you're a fashion designer.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah. Not
But
really.
here's what's really cool
I
is that
can
we
see
do
it.
it for horse and rider, and that's unusual. So we've got all like the, the riding gear, we've got the horse gear. We're looking into textiles that are functional and restorative for both, horse and rider and stuff. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on with textiles, but it's amazing. Like we manufacture all over the world and it's just fascinating to see the different kinds of manufacturing processes, the different textiles that are available, where things get manufactured. During COVID, I learned so much about having to move our supply chain. It was a complete, it was crazy. I just hope that we really get back to that kind of industrial aspect of America because there's just so much value in not leveraging technology necessarily, but in doing the work yourself and figuring it out and finding the right people to make stuff for you. I wish we had a manufacturing base here. It's a real shame that we don't because it would be really cool to be able to go down and just like drive down to downtown LA and meet the person that's sewing the breeches.
Well, especially if they know that what they're creating and developing is also backed by you caring about them.
Yeah.
Right. And knowing that even if you're thousands of miles away, there's still that like sense of community, even from a distance of we really care about the products and the customers we're serving. And they're in like they're, you know, they understand the why of why you're designing it all in the first place.
You know what's interesting is that there is a lot of prejudice in America. We will have people that will say, I don't want anything made in India. I don't want anything made in China. I don't want any. And I kind of am like, well, why not? Why not? The reality is that sometimes things that are said that they're made in Italy is that a Chinese factory has sent like a little kind of team of people and the equipment and they're just making it in Rome or wherever it is they are. It's like, what is it about it being made somewhere else that you have a problem with? Nobody ever has a good answer to that. Whereas I think, you know, having a global partner who sees things differently, who makes things for competitor brands, them then being able to say, hey, these are the trends. Like we get a lot of information and inspiration and guidance from them. It's
well, maybe it brings a whole new perspective or something, a design that you would never have thought of, or maybe a fabric or something, you know, anything.
Totally. It's just it's amazing. It really bugs me actually when people say stuff like that. And it's like there's just this. See, I think that's again an American thing where it's like, well, we're American, we want things that are made here, and there's not the kind of logical like, well, if it's made in the USA, I might have to pay $500 for it instead of $100.
Yeah.
It's kind of like this magical thinking.
Well, and it's interesting. So, like, even coming from my background, like tying a little bit of it in from outsourcing, right? So, call centers, we are not a sexy industry, right? Like, everyone's like, oh, call centers.
Every industry's sexy.
You call me warranty complaints. I'm like, nope, that's that's not what all call centers do. Or, you know, they all have these bias towards it. And what I've just taken finally, it's almost like the girl who told you, oh, you're a fashion designer.
Yeah.
You know, it took me having a couple of people from the outside say, the amount of stuff you know from that industry because you're on this global field and you're talking to people from
Yes.
all the different cultures, geopolitical issues or just things across
Yeah.
all the different industries and verticals, but you're getting high quality from people who in some countries are so excited to come to work and do their job and put the quality and craftsmanship behind
Totally.
it, whatever, where in some places they don't want those
Yeah.
jobs. And so it's really finding
Yeah.
those right people across the globe
Yeah.
who
Totally.
that's something that really holds true to them.
Yeah, totally. I actually think call centers are totally sexy because it's the experience, right? But they can be, right? I mean, they could be not sexy, but it's always about how you feel or how you make. I think they're very powerful, right?
Yeah.
If you've outsourced your customer service or what have you, it's really important that they are an extension of the brand and that they make the customer feel the way the brand, the people behind the brand want them to feel. It's a really hard thing to outsource. It's kind of like digital marketing, or email marketing. It's a hard thing to outsource, to get the voice of the brand. I mean, customer service is so important. Look at the companies like Zappos. People shop there because of the customer service. I'm sure that they probably outsourced some of it. I don't know actually, but I think they did.
I think some of it.
yeah.
But I mean, I think for them, it's also figuring out how, if you do that strategy, how do you make sure that no matter who they talk to, whether it's insourced, outsourced, because there's a lot of times a mix.
Yeah.
How do they all feel the same?
Right.
Like,
how do you
can
do
make
that?
the
I mean, how do you do that? Is that training? Is it?
It really just depends on the size and scale, but it's training, it's the consistency, it's making sure they know the why, they know the value behind it. Like, who are they servicing? Why do you want them to feel that way? Right. And so I think it really just depends on each company and the size and magnitude of those customers and how they want to be served or how you want to serve them. But it is really interesting just from when you look at the customers across the globe and across the industries. I think Amazon kind of threw it out the window for everyone, where it used to be, if this is my bank, I want to be treated like this way. If this is my grocery store, I want to be treated this way. And then with Amazon, everyone's like, well, can't we all be treated that way with any company we work with? And so now all the industries are trying to keep up and catch up with, like, wait, now our customers expect a really easy experience with us, where we know who they are and we understand what they want. And so I do think the big thing is the contact centers, when people do, whether it's insourced or outsourced, have to get that information of what's happening. Because I think sometimes it's, now we put it in the customer care teams. And it's almost like unless you have that loop back to the product teams or know what's happening, you have to make sure it's a fluid across the organization.
It's funny. A lot of people have been, because we have a chat function, on our site, and we were talking to an agency that we work with, and they said that they were starting to leverage ChatGPT. I do not, like, we're still, I will respond to customer requests any time of day or night. What do you think about things like ChatGPT and just bots? I personally hate it. I won't interact with chat unless I can get a hold of a human in some way, shape, or form. Unless it's something really easy, but then I probably wouldn't be looking.
I think it depends, because I think there are a lot of things that we have that customers have to interact with us where they shouldn't have to in the first place.
Right.
Like resetting a password, things like that, where you're, why is that even something that the customer has to reach out to in the first place? And I think we put a lot of products to market without knowing and understanding how the customers will respond or what the needs are. So then we get this influx of questions that come in for whatever product or design. And then we wonder, why are they calling us?
Yeah.
Right. But then there's also that big gap a lot of times in organizations where the contact center has no idea what's happening over here. So it's very disjointed. And
I mean, that's what's hard. Like with us, the kinds of questions that we get asked are like, I have this kind of breed of horse and they're an in-between, and, how do I measure? And I mean, these are very specific questions.
Yeah.
That's something that we could not. I mean, one of the areas that we have kind of started to struggle just because we're growing is customer service and being responsive and responsive, quick enough in our responsiveness. And, anyone who does customer service for a long time kind of gets a little burnt out on it. Especially if you're dealing with a high demand and high maintenance type of client. How do you teach people that? Because that's a very specific, I think that's where it becomes really difficult to outsource, right? Or maybe not, I don't know.
Well, I think it's different too. Like when you're smaller and you are, everything, like you understand the breed, like you do, you've done the sport, or you were on a horse at 3 in Santa Monica. So like when you know everything about it, and then you're trying to take that brain and apply it to all the other people who now are going to potentially support the customers, it's really making sure you can take that knowledge. Because if I'm buying something that is really personal for me, I don't want to ask some person who then is like, well, hold on, let me look up in the category description, or let me look up.
Right.
It's like, well, I can read that too. I want to know someone who really understands what my needs are.
Right.
But I think it depends on the scale too. So I'd say by industry, as much as I'm sounding a little bit hypocritical here, where like every industry, all the customers want to be the same. There are some that they don't want the cost to serve to be very high. So like if it's a cable company, ChatGPT might, going back to your question, ChatGPT might work because you're willing to put more risk in something that people kind of need to work with your brand. They don't necessarily always want to.
Right.
But if you have a very custom brand, it really makes sense to make sure whatever you're putting in front of your customer isn't going to cause more friction or problem than it is going to be the solution. So I think a lot of times you have to be careful of what you're doing across, because not everything works for everyone.
Because I have to say that is one area, if there was a magic button and you could not have to hire someone, because nobody ever wants to stay in those kinds of jobs. They want, they kind of get burnt out. And if customers are, I mean, it's not that they're not nice. It's just, they can be really high maintenance and it can take weeks sometimes to resolve something. I would flick a switch if I could if I could outsource it in the right way, I would absolutely do it. Because it's disruptive, right? I mean, like it breaks the flow, and it's so important that we do have to see it through to the end, and we have to be responsive. And before you know it, the whole day's gone, and you've been going back and forth on, Shopify inbox or whatever with somebody about their mix and match horse, which is really important, and we're known for it. But it's an interesting thing when I look at growth. We're just as well known for our customer service and customer experience as we are for the quality of the products. But it's really hard to scale that level of attention.
Yeah. But I think it goes, I'd almost parallel it to what you were doing in like the brand, like recruitment, like your talent matchmaking, where you were really having to try as much as you could to understand it from the inside of their organization, what they're looking for and who they want to be hiring. And you're operating as almost an extension of their brand.
Right.
And you almost have to find partners who, and be very particular about who you choose, who can live and experience your brand in a way where they act as almost an owner in the company. And they care a lot about what every one of those interactions are. And I think the ones who do it most successfully, you wouldn't know who works for what company. Because there's just a meshing of, we care so much about the customer, and the customer is most important, that we're all here together to make sure that we're servicing them the right way.
Yeah. So where is that? That's what I need. That is what I need. That would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I know we could talk here all day.
I know, totally. I feel like I went off on lots of tangents, but that's what we do. We spark off each other.
But I think too, when your brain is in multiple places all the time, like, whether it's, Alter Ego or it's Catalyst or wherever you are, and just learning from people all the time, I think it's the only way you can, for me, it's the only way I survive, is being able to stay you
don't sleep either.
I don't.
I know. You will. I mean, I remember.
But I was just so excited for today.
I know, but it's so funny though.
I probably have zombie eyes.
I remember texting you once, and I think where you were in the world, it was 4 a.m. and you responded immediately. I was like, "What are you doing?"
It's mainly just because you're a VIP, so anytime I'm
so
there's
gongs go off,
signal, there's all of it. It's like Wendy,
totally. So you're going to be my first my one call from jail. Then if I ever get arrested,
I wouldn't call Kai.
No, he wouldn't pick up. My husband won't even pick up. I say this to them. I'm like, I could be dying on the roadside, and you would never know. No. You would never be able to say goodbye to me. I could be in jail.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, they are not.
Call me.
Yeah, I will call you. Yeah, you'll be awake. I hope you're sleeping more, because that is important.
I do sleep, but I think I do the balance, right?
Yeah.
So I try to sleep a little bit, but then I have to have my catch-up sleeps every once in a while.
Yeah. It's important. I mean, really.
Yeah.
I won't go into all that, but
yeah.
It's important.
Yeah, and thank you so much. It's always my pleasure
being
having you on and talking to people and having your expertise and experience of everything you've had, and all the stories from other people that you can share too.
Thank you.
And if I ever get into equestrian,
I've got to break into Western. That's the biggest market here, actually.
Yes, because all my family in North Dakota, we had, I wish I was I want to take all of these and give them.
Gotta show her the lace shirts. They love lace.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Western girls,
lace,
they love it.
Sparkles, all of it. Yeah,
I know. They really are bedazzled. What's really funny is that I am the least bedazzled person at my barn. I'm just everything is black. It's not patterned. It's very plain. Because it's kind of like if you're a baker, right? Do you want to sit there and eat cake all day? You get to taste a little bit as you're making the cake. Yeah. So I kind of am very conservative, which is kind of hypocritical, but I get
No,
to
I think
bedazzle
you can
everyone else.
You can enjoy everyone else's sparkle, and then you're,
Totally.
Yeah,
Yeah,
getting
no,
all
this
the-
is awesome. I can't wait to see all the, all of the other interviews or chats. I guess it's more like just a chat format.
more of conversations that maybe other people aren't really having that aren't scripted. It's just real conversation. It's real topics, and whether or not we go off on 1,000 tangents.
I want to see that more. I mean, people are just still so politically correct and saying, I want to set you up for success. And all of these platitudes, I'm going to lean in. I mean, like, none of these honestly mean very much. It drives me up the wall. I would love to see some real talk on LinkedIn, in the blogosphere. Like, we're trying to figure this out, and we have to come together and all commit to figuring it out together. I would love to see that happening.
Well, guess what? You just created it.
Aha, there you go. Is that a third job?
Now you're hired. Whether or
Every
not
time
you
I have
wanted
another
that.
idea, my husband's like, yeah, that sounds like another business to me, and that's a no.
I love it.
But why not?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's our show. CX and Chill is a production of EXO Studios, the creative marketing arm of ExtendOps, with today's host, Stephanie Todd, executive producer Sean McCreary, producers David Spear, Clarissa Coronado, and Memo Davalos, editors and videographers Santiago Aguirre, Alfonso Ramirez, graphic support from Jordan Madrid, and social media guru Claudia Corona.